Good morning, every one of you. This is Raja from ManageEngine. Before I begin, I would like to confirm if you can hear my voice and view this presentation. Welcome to Patch Tuesday updates from ManageEngine. If you can hear my voice, please do acknowledge via chat. I'm waiting for your acknowledgement. Thank you. So, here is our agenda for our quick 30-minute session. As always, we are going to break down on Microsoft's Patch Tuesday updates. We are also going to hit upon few critical third-party applications and analyze the impacts on missing these patches. End of the session, we will start exploring ways to defend or secure your network. Anytime during this presentation, if you have any questions, you can feel free to post it in our questions panel. I have an expert team who is sitting next to me who can answer your queries then and there. Okay? So here is a quick glance on what is in the limelight. There are a couple of things that I would like to insist. If you would have listened or if you would have participated in the previous webinar, you would have heard me quoting the same. However, let me repeat it for the new audience. Microsoft has resumed support for Delta packages. So by now, I'm sure most of you should be aware of what Delta packages are. Just a recap, Microsoft has started releasing patches in form of cumulative updates. So whenever I say cumulative updates, all the patches are bundled together, and every single time that you need to patch a computer, you will have to download a huge amount of data. Okay, so only the huge quantity of data can be patched using cumulative updates. After several feedbacks and requests from customers, Microsoft has now started updating patches in form of Delta packages. So whenever I say Delta packages, the updates are not cumulative. The updates that are released only for a particular month are called as Delta packages. In case you have the practice of updating your applications, be it your operating system, third-party applications, or your business critical servers, you have a practice of updating your servers and systems every month. In that case, you need not download the huge amount of data, which means you can simply go ahead and start patching your computers based on Delta packages. Okay, let me repeat it again. This is applicable only if you start downloading packages and deploying the patches every month. In case you don't patch your computers for a particular month, in that case you'll have to go back to the cumulative packages. And the second most critical information is this: no more security and quality patches for Windows 10 version 1507 and 1511. It might sound a bit surprising for you when I say it is end of support for Windows 10. Yes, it is, but not for complete Windows 10, but for specific version of Windows 10. You should be wondering, Windows 10 sounds a latest operating system. How could this ever happen? Let me give you few facts. So here we go. Here is a quick glance on the release and support details. Version 1507 of Windows 10 operating system was released during July 2015, and Microsoft has officially claimed the end of support during May 2017. And now 1511, that is Windows 10 version 1511, which was later termed as November update, because many people might find it familiar when I say November update. Okay, this was released during November 2015, and the date was declared as October 10, which is yesterday, which was actually yesterday, October 10, 2017. So this is the last time that you're receiving patches officially for 1511, and I'm very sure from the next month we are not going to patch in terms of Microsoft is not going to release patches for 1511. In case you're running any computers or business critical servers on version 1511, this could be the best time for you. You can see to it that you simply go ahead and patch your computers, migrate to a latest operating system. Okay, right. Now let's move on to the details about October's Patch Tuesday release. 427 patches. This 427 is the total number of patches which are released and supported by Desktop Central since the previous Patch Tuesday. All right, here is a split up. 427, you cannot find the same numbers here in terms of count when you summarize it. However, it is split for your identity. It is split as number of patches. It is going to be 92 patches, 51 updates, 63 vulnerabilities, and 6 impacts. We are going to view this into a different dimension. Patches by impact. So what comes into your mind whenever I talk about patches in terms of impact? I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with that, but most of us, or almost all of us, who is more concerned about system administration, who is more concerned about patching computers and servers, would never forget WannaCry, Petya, and all these cyber attacks which happened in the recent past. So you would be familiar with the terms when I say WannaCry, or Delta Charlie, or when I say sudo, fireball. These would have been the marketing terms for a vulnerability or an attack. But the reality is this: nothing but the impact. So the kind of impact that is created due to these vulnerabilities are the ones that are listed here: defense in depth, denial of service, elevation of privilege, and security feature bypass, information disclosure, and up above everything, topmost on the list is remote code execution. One classic example of remote code execution is WannaCry, and of course, not to forget the second version of WannaCry, which was Petya. Okay, so this is exactly how and where everything begins. Let's get it in detail. So here is a list of patches which are released in terms of severity. So here you find all the patches that are released based on the severity. I could say around 36% of the patches are really critical, whereas 34% are of course important. And you have patches under moderate, you have patches under low severity. So what does it mean? Does it mean that we can slightly ignore the patches which are low, or probably delay deploying the patches which are moderate? I would definitely not recommend it, because we have enough experience from the past, of course the recent past. So let's try patching all the computers and see to it that we don't miss out on patching any of the critical patches or important or moderate patches. Why not, if possible, even patches which are rated low by Microsoft. So let's look at the details right here in terms of applications. So far, whatever we have been discussing, every single element of data that I've given you were just facts. But here comes the reality which you can really associate it with your day-to-day business. So what are the applications or operating systems that I should watch out for right now? Here is a list. Windows top ranks the list. When I say Windows, you have multiple components of Windows. It could include Windows Server, Windows, various versions of Windows operating system. Windows top ranks the list, followed by Microsoft Edge and Office family, Internet Explorer, SharePoint. So these are the few applications, these are the top 5 applications and the operating systems which you should actually be, which you should watch out for and which you should ensure that they are patched immediately. All right, so here we go. A detailed description on the applications, on the top 5 applications, and of course a bit more what could be the impact or what could be the vulnerability, how could it be exploited. Let's explore it a bit. The first information that is thrown up in red, any idea why is it in red? Anybody who would have followed Patch Tuesday updates would have heard about a familiar term, zero-day vulnerability. What is zero-day vulnerability? A vulnerability that is identified by a hacker or an intruder, not by the vendor, and which is exploited even before a patch is released, is called as a zero-day vulnerability. To repeat it again, a vulnerability which is not disclosed by the vendor, probably the vendor has not identified the vulnerability, but an intruder has identified the security glitch, a security hole, and exploited it even before a fix is released. So such vulnerabilities are claimed as zero-day vulnerability. And right on top stays Microsoft, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Office services, and web apps. This is a zero-day vulnerability. When I say this, components which are related to Microsoft, especially Microsoft Word and few Microsoft Office services and web applications, there was a security glitch which was exploited by few intruders. Later, Microsoft has now pitched in, trying to come up with an immediate patch which could help them arrest this issue. So if in case you're running Microsoft, of course, most of the organizations run Microsoft. In particular, if you're running Microsoft Office, especially Microsoft Word or Office services, this is time for you to watch out before an intruder creeps into your network. So the next which comes into the list is Microsoft Windows itself, which means the various flavors, various versions of operating systems. Then comes Microsoft Edge and Internet Explorer, the browsers, and finally the last two which has found a position in our list is Skype for Business with Link and Microsoft's SharePoint server. So I could actually put it this way: Microsoft is everywhere on the list, except for one or two. Microsoft is almost everywhere on the list right now. So we are going to look into this a little more detailed. All right, I'm just going to run this through. So Microsoft Office, the zero-day update, which is rated as important in terms of severity. Even Microsoft has not officially claimed this as critical based on the vulnerability. However, this is a zero-day update, which means intruders have already, taken advantage of this particular situation. So what might be the impacts? The first impact that is explained here is remote code execution. In the beginning of this presentation, when we discussed about the impacts, I gave you an example. Petya, WannaCry are classic examples of remote code execution. When I say classic, I'm not trying to say those are too good as examples, but of course those are too hazardous that we could not, take it for granted. Defense in depth, elevation of privilege, information disclosure, security feature bypass. I almost have most of the possible impacts, listed down here. So any of these might happen to any of your Microsoft application in case you don't take it critical and you don't patch the computers, your critical servers immediately. So what are the components? Let's take a look at the components which are affected. So even though there could be a huge list, I'm just pulling out few components which I could, associate to this particular vulnerability. The primary component that is compromised here is memory. It could be memory corruption or security related issues which are compromised, and of course script engine related issues. So what could be the impact? Here is a quick view on the possibility for exploit. So what might happen in case you still don't patch your computer, what might happen if we wish this never happens, but what might happen if one of your business critical server is being taken for granted here? So the victim, this is exactly what happens. So the first thing that happens is objects in the memory are not handled appropriately. Anytime a data is stored on an application, it requires sufficient memory. We call it as memory stack. In certain occasions, the memory that is stored on the application would not be sufficient. In such cases, the excess data that is being stored stays in a cache memory or a local memory. We call it as memory stack overflow. So this is exactly the situation. This is the primary situation where exploiters or intruders try attacking the memory. They corrupt it. They try infusing an arbitrary code. There are possibilities where they can even gain the logged on user's privilege. Okay, which means assume a logged on user has administrative privilege. The intruder can actually gain complete access, start creating, a lot of hazardous effects into your network. It could also lead to cross-site scripting attacks, and of course, the options are endless. So let's see, what do we have for Microsoft Windows? So we have 3 critical severities for Microsoft Windows. Anytime, even before we discuss this, in case you have any questions, please feel free to post it in questions channel. I have a team who can help you out in answering those questions. It could be questions related to patching. It could be questions related to a product. We have an expert panel who can help you with that. All right. So getting back to Microsoft Windows. So we have patches which are rated under critical, important, and low. What could be the possible impacts? And of course, there is again no compromise. We have a huge list. Security feature bypass, defense in depth, denial of service, elevation of privilege, information disclosure, and of course, remote code execution. So here is a list of components which could be affected, which start from Windows font library, graphic components, script engine, Windows SMB. I'm sure not many of us would have forgotten this. SMB, server default configuration, server messaging blocks, and kernel handling memory address issues. So this is something really critical. Whenever we talk about memory issues, this is really, really critical. Okay. So these are the components which are affected. And I have another huge list too. All right. So what could be the possible impacts? Here is a list of CVEs, the vulnerabilities which are released by Microsoft. And here is the possible exploit assessment. So what happens here? The one of the most common problem that has been, which is identified here is it fails to validate the integrity of a request. Assume a request has been initiated and the validity of the request is compromised, which means an unauthenticated user or a user who doesn't have sufficient privilege can actually creep into your data. Not just that, the user can gain access to override the file system or the data on the particular machine. They can also create a man-in-the-middle attack. So the probabilities that you might actually end up with are really critical. So we recommend you to go back and ensure that all your machines which runs on Windows operating system to be patched as soon as possible. Here is the next one, which is Microsoft Edge. So here again we have severities rated under almost all the classifications: critical, important, moderate, and low. The impact here, a couple of them. As always, remote code execution comes into the picture with information disclosure. So what components are affected? Script engine is the primary component which is affected here. Is that all? Here you find a list of CVE IDs. So these are the CVE IDs which are released by Microsoft in order to address this issue. And now, what could be the possible impact? An attacker can exploit the user's access. So, user's access, whenever I say user's access, you need to watch out. If the user has administrative privilege, the administrative privilege can definitely be leveraged to view, change, or delete data, probably create new user accounts with full user privilege. It can also end up where they can redirect all your requests to a specially crafted website. So all your data is definitely at risk. Whenever you say there's a vulnerability in a browser, I'm sure you'd be aware, browser becomes a gateway for most of your business operations. So it's all the more significant for you to go back and get it patched, without giving it a second thought. So Microsoft's Internet Explorer comes here next to the list. Again, we have patches based on severity, which is critical, important, moderate, and low. And what about the impacts? Information disclosure, and again, remote code execution. So what are the components which are impacted here? Objects in the memory, script engine. These are two common components which are affected almost in most of the cases, in most of the applications, in most of the operating systems. These are the two major components which are affected. Here is a list of CVEs that we support, which has been released by Microsoft. And here is a possible exploit assessment. User can be tricked, to a fake website. The best part is here you might also receive an enticed email or an instant message, which could provoke the user, for them to gain access. So in case the user clicks on the invite, user opens an attachment which comes as an email, they fall a prey for it. And that is where the privilege is being misused. We are now heading out to Skype for Business. The impact is elevation of privilege and the severity is rated as important. So what is a component that is affected? It is more about authenticating requests. And here is a single CV ID, and here comes the impact. So when your Skype is compromised, the intruder could steal an authentication hash which could be reused elsewhere. So your authentication is at risk. It's not just your authentication, it could be misused as well. All right, and this could also end up in sending invite or an instant message in the middle of any of your session. All right, so whenever these type of issues creep in, this is just the beginning, and of course it is followed by all more vulnerabilities which are possible. And we are heading out to SharePoint server. Here again we have few impacts: elevation of privilege, remote code execution. I'm sure we had enough of CVs and enough of discussion on impacts, components which are affected. The possible exploit assessment is unintended information disclosure. So the information that is stored on your SharePoint is not secure. To put it simple, your data is compromised, your security is breached. So I guess this is enough, and I need not explain you more about the outcome. Okay, so here is a quick list on various non-security updates which are released, and here you find the third-party updates for Windows followed by updates for Mac. So here is what we have in terms of ManageEngine. We have been discussing so far about so many problems. So what do we do right now after listening to all these problems, all these patches, all these vulnerabilities? What do you do right now? You can sit back and relax. How? If you choose one of these offerings from ManageEngine, be it ManageEngine's Desktop Central, which is an integrated desktop and mobile device management software, if you choose Patch Manager Plus, which is a patch management solution exclusively used for patching computers, be it Windows, Mac, or Linux. You also have Desktop Central for service providers. And finally, Patch Connect Plus, which acts as a plugin or an add-on to your existing Microsoft's SCCM server. You can start using Patch Connect Plus leverage the existing infrastructure, SCCM's infrastructure, and of course, patch your third-party applications. So let me take you to a quick walkthrough in the product and give you a quick demonstration on how to, get this done. All right, let's take a quick look at it, the product. This is Desktop Central's web console. So you have various features on Desktop Central, and I'm going to choose patch management right here. So minutes ago, I explained you that you can just sit back and relax when you choose ManageEngine's product. So all you're going to do is just to create a one-time task, an automated patch deployment task, which will take care of the entire patching process right from detection till deployment. So let me show you how it works. This is patch management tab. I'm just clicking on it right now, and I'm choosing automated patch deployment right over here. Okay, once I click on a patch deployment, I'm going to create a new task for you, and this task is for Windows. Here we go. I've chosen the task where I can scan the computers, download the missing patches, deploy them, and the whole process is automated. Okay, so you find a list of applications which you wanted to patch, security updates, non-security updates. You can also choose service packs, roll-ups, or optional updates. In case you wanted to choose third-party applications, yes, you can well go ahead and choose third-party applications based on the severity. Assume you want to exclude a specific application, a specific third-party application from patching, you can well go ahead and exclude it by listing it here. And once you have chosen the type of patches which needs to be deployed, the next thing that you do is to configure a policy in case you're running business critical servers and you never wanted to patch your servers without testing. In such cases, we have a test and deploy feature where you can create a test group. You can see to it the patches are tested in your own environment, and once those patches are successfully deployed and it doesn't cause any impact, in that case the patches can be rolled out to your production. In such cases, you can also delay the deployment of patches based on the release date or based on the approval date. ManageEngine, before releasing a patch, we have a team who dedicatedly test the patches, and of course only the patches which are tested and approved within ManageEngine is being released for your server. However, you can still create a test environment within your corporate, within your network, and once the patches are tested, you can roll it out for your business. The next thing that you do is configure your deployment settings. So all you can do is to create a deployment policy. You should be wondering, what is a deployment policy? For people who are new to this product, people who are not familiar with this, you can just get it here. I'm just creating a deployment policy for you. Okay, so as the name conveys, a deployment policy allows you to customize your deployment. You can create a policy and configure when to deploy the patches. Should it be on weekdays or should it be on weekends? On what should be the time interval? Assume I want to deploy the patches during non-business hours. I can make it as 10 o'clock in the night before 5 o'clock in the morning. I can go ahead and configure it. What if my users have turned down the computers? In such cases, I can simply go ahead and configure this option, which allows me to boot computers even if one of your critical machine is down. In terms of one of your business critical machine is shut down, you can still wake up the computer, deploy the patches, and then choose to reboot it or shut down it based on your requirement. Okay, you can also create a reboot policy as it is described here, a reboot policy which allows you to exclude servers from reboot, or you can choose to shut down the computers. In case you want to exclude it, you can exclude them, or you can allow the user to decide it. You want the user to take a final call on reboot or shutdown, you can do that too. So once a policy is created, you can simply associate a deployment policy to an automated patch deployment task, which means You have automated the complete process of scanning the computers, detecting the machines where business critical patches are missing, and of course you can download the missing patches. Only the missing patches will be downloaded and deployed during the specific time interval, to the target computers. So what are the target computers here? We would recommend you to choose the entire remote office or the entire domain as a target. So when you choose a complete domain as a target, every computer which becomes a part of your Active Directory in future, even those computers will be scanned and the missing patches will be downloaded and deployed. So no matter what, how many ever patch Tuesdays or how many ever patches are released by Microsoft or Mac or Linux or be it any third-party application, there is nothing for you to feel nervous about it. Everything is being taken care of. The complete process is automated. I'm just going to create a task with the complete remote office or a domain or a work group as a target. So once I have chosen this and I'm creating a task right now, I'm done. Probably if you would have started creating a patch management task by the time I started explaining you, all your patch management worries would have been completed, would have been addressed right now. Okay, so this is as simple as that. In case you have any questions about patch management or any specific business cases which is not addressed during this presentation, you can feel free to post it back to us. Okay, all right, so let's go back to the presentation. These are the offerings from ManageEngine, and here with this we conclude our Patch Tuesday updates from ManageEngine. If you have any questions, I'll stay connected. Please feel free to post it in our questions channel. And at the end of this survey, at the end of this presentation, you will be prompted with a survey. You can also rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 being the best. Thank you again for all your wonderful time and wish you all good luck. Thank you.